The Adventure of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. Longman Simplified English Series. Read by Thitima Phansri. Chapter 3. Joys and Sorrow. Tom stood before Aunt Polly. The soft summer air, the restful quiet, the scent of the flower, and the sleepy murmur of the bee had their effect. And she was nodding in her armchair. Her spectacles were up on her grey head and safety. She thought that Tom had deserted long ago, and she wondered to see him place himself in her power again in this broad way. "May I go out and play now, Auntie?" he said. "What, already? How much have you done?" "It's all done, Auntie." "Tom, don't lie to me. I hate lies." "I'm not lying, Auntie. Is this all done?" Aunt Polly could hardly believe it, and went out to see for herself. She would have been content to find a quarter of Tom's statement true. When she found the entire fence whitewashed, and not only whitewashed but carefully coated and recoated, she gasped with astonishment. "Well, I never! I must say you can work when you try, Tom. But it is seldom that you do try. Well, run along and play." She was so astonished at Tom's performance that she took him to the cupboard and picked out the finest apple for him. He danced out into the garden and sought it. In a moment the air was full of lamps of earth. They flew round Seth's ears, and before Aunt Polly could come to the rescue, 6 or 7 had hit him, and Tom was over the fence and gone. There was a gate, but generally he was too short of time to make use of it. He was satisfied, since he had punished Sis for calling attention to the black trees and getting him into trouble. As he was passing the house where Dasher lived, he saw a new girl in the garden. She was a lovely little blue-eyed angel with 2 long tails of yellow hair, as one a girl called Emily Lauren. When she completely out of Tom's heart, he worshipped this new angel till he saw that she had still covered him. Then he pretended he did not know she was present, and began to act in all sorts of silly boyish way in order to win her admiration. While he was in the midst of some dangerous trick, he glanced aside and saw that the little girl was going toward the house. Tom came up to the fence and leaned on it, hoping that she would wait a little longer. Tom sighed as she put her foot on the doorstep, but his face lit up at once, for she threw a rose over the fence. Just before she disappeared, the boy ran round, picked up his treasure, and buttoned it inside his coat, next to his heart, or next to his stomach, possibly, for he was not quite sure where the one began and the other ended. All through supper he was so gay that his aunt wondered why. She scolded him for throwing lumps of earth at it, but he did not seem to mind in the least. He tried to steal sugar under his aunt's very nose, and got a tap on his finger with a spoon. "Aunt, you don't hesitate when he takes sugar," he said. "Well, sis doesn't worry me as you do. You would be always stealing sugar if I didn't watch you." Sis smiled in a self-satisfied way, and when the old lady went into the kitchen, he reached for the sugar basin, but his finger slipped, and the basin dropped and broke. Now it was Tom's turn to smile, but he controlled his tongue and kept silent. He said to himself that he would not say a word, even when his aunt came in, but would sit perfectly still till she asked who has broken the basin. Then he would tell, and it would be delightful to see that model boy get a good beating. He was so wild with joy that he could hardly keep still when the old lady came back and stood above the broken piece. Looking angrily over her spectacles, he said to himself, "Now's she going to his sit." And the next instant he was flat in the floor. Her palm was uppercut to strike again. Then Tom cried out, "Hi, why are you hitting me? She's broke it." Aunt Polly paused, puzzled, and Tom looked at her for healing pity. But when she had recovered from her surprise, she only said, Well, I'm sure you deserve it. No doubt you were in the same mischief while I was in the kitchen." Then her conscience pricked her, and she longed to say something kind and loving, but she just that this would be taken as a confession that she has been in the wrong, and discipline forbade that. So she kept silent and went about her housework. With the troubled heart, Tom sat gloomily in the corner and nursed his sorrows. He knew through tearful eyes that she glanced tenderly at him now and again, asking for forgiveness, but he refused to take any notice. He imagined himself lying on his deathbed and his aunt bending over him, begging for one little forgiving word, but he would turn his face to the wall and die without saying that word. Ah, how would she feel then? And he imagined himself brought home from the river, dead with his cold and wet, and his poor hands still forever, and his broken heart at rest. She would throw herself upon him, and her tears would fall like rain. She would pray God to give her back her boy, and promise she would never ill-treat him any more. But he would lie there, cold and pale, and make no sign. Poor little sufferer! He was so affected by this vision that he had to keep on swallowing. His eyes swam in tears, which overflowed and ran down from the end of his nose. He was enjoying his sorrow so much that any cheerfulness was unwelcome. When his cousin Mary danced in, delighted to be home again after a week visit to the country, he got up and moved in cloud and darkness out at one door as she brought song and sunshine in at the other. His unhappy heart desired to be alone, and so he wandered far away from the places where boys usually met. A log raft on the river invited him. He sat down on its outer edge and gazed at the wide river, wishing that he could be drowned at once without suffering the usual pains. Not long after, as Tom was undressing for bed, Sid woke up. He said nothing. He knew from the expression on Tom's face that it would be unwise to ask him any question. Tom got into bed without saying his prayers, and Sid made a note of this bad behavior.